Welcome back, it's Melanie, your She Shed Scrapper. So today I am back with a 2-page layout using the Home for Christmas scrapbooking workshop. I'm doing project 3, I believe. These are from close to my heart, and they come with all of the products and instructions for 3 2-page layouts. One thing that is nice with these is that you can follow the instructions to a T, or you can kind of take the products and make your own layouts. So I am using the cutting instructions here and cutting them to the proper sizes. I did, however, cut the pine paper here a little bit different because I knew my photos were different sizes than what they recommended. So I cut that pine paper a little bit wider. Also, they wanted me to cut a large strip of the black cardstock, but when I looked at the layout, there was only 2 strips that actually were showing. And so I decided that I would, when I got to that part, just cut a small strip and place it there. I didn't feel like wasting the whole piece of cardstock. So that's the other nice thing, is you can kind of make little changes like that to get the most out of your products. There's a lot of times I finish scrapbooking workshops and they are, or I have a lot of products left over. So with this layout here, there are lots of layers and this very pretty banner piece at the top. So on the instructions, it will tell you how far from the edge to place the papers, how far from the top or the bottom as well. But for whatever reason, because that banner piece is at the top, the wood grain paper and this pine paper, there weren't instructions on kind of how far from the top to place it. So you saw that I placed the banner across the top initially, and that was just to help me figure out how low I guess I could place the papers. Here's where I cut that, just a smaller strip of black paper, and in the instructions they have you use a white gel pen and add faux stitching, and I really liked that look, and so I did end up doing that. I cut this one actually too wide for what I needed. My papers were they were taped pretty well to the background page, and so I cut the black page down a little bit and then lined that back up. Another thing with the scrapbooking workshop, you get exclusive pieces. So this gray background was not part of the collection, but you get exclusive pieces like this, and there are a bunch of punch out die cuts, and that's what that banner piece at the top was. Unfortunately, this particular scrapbooking workshop was from the previous catalog, so I don't know that it is available yet, but I just like to bring awareness, I guess, to these scrapbooking workshops because I think they are great, and a lot of times they have layouts that I absolutely love. So if I'm kind of stuck at the moment, kind of in a creative, I guess, block, I don't know if block's the right word, these are something I turn to because I don't really have to think about creating the layout. I can just follow the instructions and still, scrapbook and get layouts accomplished, but don't really have to think much about it. Quick story about the photos I'm using. So this was Christmas of 2020, I believe. So you'll notice that we have masks on except for my grandma, but we just kind of did that to protect her a little bit. But this is kind of just a fun memory. My mom painted a cow, a Christmas cow, and we all thought it looked like a dog, and she knew that we thought it looked like a dog. So when my grandma opened it or got it. We asked her what she thought it was, and she too thought it was a dog. So we call this particular painting Cow Dog. And since then, my grandma has passed, and I actually was at my mom's house the other day, and she has the Cow Dog on the wall for Christmas time. So just kind of a fun memory, and I have been holding on to these photos, not really knowing how to scrapbook them. Because I think this was kind of our last normal Christmas with her, with my grandma. So there's some photos that are harder to scrapbook, I guess. I just don't want to run out of photos of her, I guess, is my thought. I don't know if anybody else feels that way or not. My aunt made a good point that now that she's gone, you want to make sure the layouts are good, like bring her not justice, but it's just harder to scrapbook those now because you want them almost to be perfect. So anyways, the embellishments are, I followed the instructions for the bottom part of the embellishments with those kind of, they're not really phrases, they're stars and the date. With those die cuts and then the ornaments, but I thought the top left could use something, and so I had a couple of pieces left over from a different layout, I believe, from the scrapbooking workshop. So I made little flags out of them for the top left, added a flare from Scrap and Happy Studio, and then a circular sticker off the sticker sheet. The nice thing is, like I mentioned before, you get extra product. So you never use the entire sticker sheet on the 3 layouts. And so what I end up doing is kind of scoping out the other layouts to see what I can use that isn't needed for the other projects. So those circular ones, and there's actually quite a few stickers on the sticker sheet I noticed that were not used in the other projects that I was able to then kind of embellish on my own. So following the same kind of rules for page 2, however, I did not line up the wood grain paper with the wood grain paper on the left-hand side of the page. I lined it all up at the top, but I must have on page 1 brought it down a little bit. So when I go to put my pictures on the page, you will notice I have to like rip it all up because I wanted my pictures even. I wanted, I guess, it to be kind of cohesive where my pictures were lined up across the 2 pages, and it just looked odd when my photos on page 2 were overhanging that wood grain paper, and on page 1 they fit with the wood grain paper. I think you'll notice in just a second when I trim these down, and I keep trimming them down a little bit more, which I think I probably could have left them the sizes that they are. But again, I wanted them to fit on the wood grain paper, not even realizing I just needed to pull that wood grain paper down. So again, if this is a layout you try on your own with a different collection, or if you have this scrapbooking workshop, definitely make sure that your 2 inner papers are the same length. This is where I figure it out and I kind of get frustrated. So I have to tear up the banner. I have to tear up the wood grain piece, which is under the green piece, and just kind of make a mess of my layout. Luckily, I knew that all of that would be covered up again, and so it didn't really matter that it ripped that background paper. But it still was frustrating that, I had already done all of that and yet had to rip it all up. And then remeasure from the edge of the background paper to see, where to line it up appropriately. So just extra time it took because I didn't think ahead and line that up. So now that I have the base done, page 2 is going to come together pretty quickly as well. I do add a few extra embellishments to page 2 just because I honestly could and had extra pieces. So with this too, I wanted, I guess, more green, or I wanted it more centered on that green. And so I did end up tearing that big die cut as well, which will be a journaling piece. So the hearts are kind of the last embellishment that they suggest for the layout. So I put those down, a few with foam tape and the others right on there, but still felt like it was lacking with embellishment. So I did end up going back to the sticker sheet and seeing if there were any other stickers that were not used in the other projects. And sure enough, there was this doily sticker. And so I added the word believe in the middle of that sticker. I think you could have probably wrote the date and whatnot, but there was a place on page 1 for the date. And so I just added that phrase sticker instead, found a couple more circular stickers and placed them, one on that upper cluster on page 1, and then that circular doily with a heart on page 2, and wanted to add something else to the top with the hearts. I don't necessarily love the oval now that I have it placed, but it was a sticker that was not used in the other projects, and it worked good enough for what I wanted. I just wanted it, you know, those hearts kind of to have a base and to spruce up that cluster a little bit extra for these photos. So I hope you guys enjoyed this layout. Again, I will search and see if this collection, this scrapbooking workshop is still available, but it was from last catalog. So I'm not sure if it is, but I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.